Did you know that using reverb improperly can lead to muddy and unprofessional sounding mixes? Today we're going to fix that, and I'm going to share with you 3 simple tips that will help you become more confident using reverb and instantly elevate your mixes. I'm going to start by playing you the finished mix for this song, and then I'm going to mute out all the reverb. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to play the mix for you with all the reverbs going, and then I'll turn all of them off. You can hear the mix with and without all these reverbs, and you can hear the difference it makes inside this song and how it affects the mix overall. So I'm going to hit play here, and I'm going to go through and highlight all the reverbs and mute them out. You can hear with and without the reverbs.
With no more troublesome fights, and no more walking on ice. I'm free to let this go. I'm alright. I'll find the one for me, and she'll be what I need, and prove just what I know. This is what I like. With no more troublesome fights, and no more walking on ice. I'm free to let this go. I'm alright.
So one of the biggest problems we get when using reverb inside a mix is that it starts to cloudy things up, it starts to get in the way of our vocal, of our drums, and it starts to drain attack from our song. You'll notice as I A-B these reverbs, as I mute and unmute them, the depth of our song changes, but the tones of our instruments don't change. So we're getting added depth and added space and ambience from our reverbs, but it's not changing the tone of our instruments, it's not making things muddy, and it's not draining energy from our song. That's the key here with these 3 tips. So the first tip with using reverb while you're mixing is utilizing high and low pass filters. And we're going to look mainly at the drum reverb for this one. So all of our drum tracks, at least all of our spot mics here. So we've got the kick, the snare, the side stick, the toms, and the overheads are sending into this reverb here. This is the open air reverb inside of Studio One. It's just an impulse response loader, and I'm using the Bricasti Room Studio B close mics. It's just an impulse response. It's a short room reverb, about 400 milliseconds here, 407.5 milliseconds. But the key here is after the reverb, I'm using an EQ to roll off everything below 200 and everything above 10K. The goal here with the reverb is to add space and depth to our drums. I don't want to overload the bottom end. I don't want to kill all the weight that we've added to the drums by overloading it and adding all this extra bottom end in the reverb that's going to be crazy wide and crazy deep. We just want to add some depth to our drums overall. So take a listen. I'm going to play just our drums here, and I'm going to solo up this reverb for you as well. So I'll start dipping out tracks. You can hear our reverb by itself. So you can hear our reverb there, our room verb, and you can hear what it's adding to the track. Now listen as I take off the EQ. Listen to how drastically our reverb changes, and I'll dump it back into the track as well. You can hear what a different vibe it sets for the song. That's just the room reverb by itself. Hear how crazy it gets when we bypass this EQ here. Just getting rid of these 2 little filters, the high pass filter and the low pass filter. Suddenly the cymbals get a little bit harsher, and our kick drum is crazy, crazy loud in our reverb. Let's do that in context of the drum mix here. So here's our drums, and I'm going to bypass and unbypass this EQ on our room reverb. Without the EQ in, it feels like we're just like kind of right next to a broken speaker. The kick drum's all huge and it feels ambient at the same time. We kick this EQ in and it drastically cleans up our room reverb and it drastically cleans up our drum sound while also adding the depth that we want to our drums. So our first tip here when using reverb is to make use of high pass filters and to make use of low pass filters. And we could even go further with these to get more out of it. So let me do that real quick here. I'll start to bring up the room reverb and we'll experiment with pulling these in even further to just focus down even more on the mid-range here.
Walking on ice.
So if you start to roll off bottom end on your reverb and it feels like it's making the reverb smaller, you can actually pull the low pass filter down further to get more of that impact back and make the room feel bigger, because bottom end is always going to travel further than top end. So if you start to suck some top end out of your reverb, it can make it feel like things are farther away and that the room's a bit bigger. We're focused more on the mid-range here, so let's throw this back inside the drum mix and see kind of how that sounds. We'll push the reverb up further as well. Two simple filters there, but you can hear what a difference it makes on the room reverb and what a difference it makes on the drum sound as a whole. So that's our first tip there. When you're using reverb, no matter what reverb you're pulling in, hall, room, plate, whatever, make use of your high pass filters and your low pass filters to clean up the reverb and clean up the sound overall. Now, the second tip here when using reverb, this is more specific to vocals, but you can actually apply this to whatever you would like inside your mix. You could do it on drums, you could do it on guitars, what have you, is to use pre-delays to get some separation between the source sound and your reverb. I do this specifically on vocals, specifically lead vocal, to kind of clean things up a little bit. So I have my lead vocal sending into this Vox bus here, the lead vocal, and then there's a vocal effects sound in the verse as well. We don't need to listen to that. But we're mainly looking at this Lexicon A plate. Again, I'm using the open air reverb, just have an impulse response loaded in of the Lexicon 480 A plate. It's a 2-second plate reverb, but you can see I have the pre-delay cranked all the way up to 151.5 milliseconds, about 150, 152 milliseconds. Anywhere in there is kind of where I feel happy with this. I want you to listen to how this affects our vocal reverb, okay, and our vocal sound overall. We're going to start with the pre-delay in here. I'm going to play you just the vocal with the effects on it, and I'll actually turn off the slap delay and our quarter note delay. So just the vocal and the reverb here. And then when I get rid of the pre-delay, listen to how the depth changes on the vocal and listen to how the tone changes on the vocal.
Night with no more troublesome fights and no more walking on ice. I'm free to let this go. I'm alright. I'll find the one for me, and she'll be what I need and prove just what I know. Night with no more troublesome fights and no more walking on ice. I'm free to let this go.
The vocal feels way more low mid heavy without the pre-delay in there. The reason is because our reverb is sitting directly on top of our vocal. If there's no pre-delay in there, our vocal's happening and our reverb's happening at exactly the same time. So they're both sounding at the same time, and we get this buildup in the low-mid area that just makes our vocal feel really thick and really unpleasant inside the track, and even by itself here. We kick that pre-delay in, and it's only 151 milliseconds, so it's not really, really long or anything, but it gives us this separation between when the vocal starts and when the reverb sounds. So they're not happening at the same time anymore. Our vocal happens, and then our reverb happens. So they're not competing for the same space in the mix, and they're not creating this buildup in the low-mid area of the frequency range. Take a listen one more time without the pre-delay, and then I'll kick it in. Listen to the space we get on the vocal, and listen to how the tone and frequency range of the vocal changes.
With no more troublesome fights, and no more walking on ice, I'm free to let this go. I'm alright, I'll find the one for me, and she'll be what I need, and prove just what I know.
The vocal feels longer, it feels deeper without there being any kind of buildup anywhere in the frequency range of the vocal. We kick that pre-delay in, we get some separation between our vocal and our reverb. Suddenly things feel brighter, they feel more natural, and we get more length out of our vocal because our reverb is following our vocal rather than sitting right on top of it. Now, that could feel subtle by itself. It doesn't feel subtle to me. It feels like a huge change and a huge improvement to our vocal sound. But let me throw it inside the mix, and you can hear how it changes our vocal inside the actual track. And I'm going to mute out the effects vocal here that happens in the middle of the verse. So you can just focus on the lead vocal here without the pre-delay and then with it.
With no more troublesome fights, and no more walking on ice, I'm free to let this go. I'm alright, I'll find the one for me, and she'll be what I need, and prove just what I know. With no more troublesome fights, and no more walking on ice, I'm free to let this go.
The vocal feels more upfront, but yet it has more depth to it when we have that pre-delay in, because there's no buildup in the frequency range. Our vocal doesn't feel like it's being muffled or clouded by the reverb because they're not competing for the same space here inside the track. So that's our second tip, especially on vocals here. When you're putting a reverb on your vocal, make use of the pre-delay to give the vocal some separation before the reverb happens. That way the vocal sits in its own little spot and the reverb sits in its own little spot. They're not fighting and they're not creating any frequency buildup inside your track. Now the third tip here is actually a nice little improvement that you can add to instruments inside your track. So these guitars and these keys are actually sending to this flat plate reverb here inside the track. And you can see it looks like there's a couple reverbs as well as an EQ going on here. What we're doing is I'm using the splitter plugin inside of Studio One to get access to the left channel and the right channel of this stereo effects return here. So I have the splitter on, it's in channel split. I have access to the left channel and the right channel, and I have the same reverb going. It's just the concert hall reverb here from inside of, the flat plate reverb here from inside of Studio One, just a plate reverb here, and I've got the same one going on each side here. You can see it's exactly the same reverb, so I have one on the left and one on the right. So what this is doing is it's separating our sends. So instead of our vocal coming in the center and then the reverb just kind of making it wider and bigger, we have a specific reverb for the left channel and a specific reverb for the right channel. Doing just this alone can kind of improve your mixes because it creates more space in the center of your track where things that are panned wide like guitars and keys, if there's nothing in the center, if you have wide pan guitars and there's not one in the center and you send it to just a normal reverb, you're going to get some sound in the center that can create a cloudy sort of sound in your mix. If you do something like this where there's a specific reverb on each side as you send in, you're only getting those reverbs on the edges, and it's not going to cloudy up the center of your mix. We're using our first tip here at the end of the chain, using an EQ to roll off the bottom end and make sure that all the instruments that are coming into this reverb aren't going to create any mud or build up here in the low mids, rolling everything off below 300 hertz. But what the key here is, you can see the panning is red. What I've done is I've actually reversed the panning on the reverb. So I'm just doing it here on the hall reverb so you can see what we've done there. All I've done is taken the panners on the reverb and flip them. So our left channel is now on the right, and our right channel is now on the left. What this does is gives us a little bit more width on our mix. So these guitars here, our electrics, our acoustics, and our keys are sending into this flat plate reverb. This guitar is panned to the left, and when it comes into the reverb, it hits our reverb channel on the left here, but as it comes out of this channel, it's being panned opposite where it came in. So our rhythm guitar on the left is going to have its reverb coming out on the right. Nothing in the center there. Each reverb is panned opposite its original source instrument. Here's just the reverb, just our instrument reverbs, no instruments, just the reverb return. You can hear how wide that sounds just by itself because there's not a center reverb. There's a reverb on the left and there's a reverb on the right. So we have our reverbs hard panned here, which gives us this wider and bigger sound. Now I want you to take a listen here with our instruments. So I'm going to solo our electrics, our acoustics, and our keys. Take a listen to our instruments here, and I'll bring up and down the reverb. You can hear how it gives us this illusion of more width on our instruments inside the mix. So I moved our fader up and down there. You can hear it's not a very long reverb, but even as I cranked it all the way up there, just push the fader, pinned it all the way to the top there, it didn't create a lot of mud. It didn't get really crazy sounding. It still felt like we were adding some nice depth to all our instruments because our reverbs aren't sitting on top of our instruments. It's panned opposite, and there's no center reverb. There's a reverb on each side channel. So no center verb. It's kind of like a little bit of mid-side, but we're flipping our channels as well. Let me show you what that sounds like inside the mix here. So we'll slowly bring this up. Pay attention to our instruments, our acoustics, our electrics, and our keys. Listen to how they get a little bit wider and deeper on the sides.
With no more troublesome fights and no more walking on ice, I'm free to let this go. She'll be what I need and prove just what I know. Right, with no more troublesome fights and no more walking on ice, I'm free to let this go. I'm alright, I'll find.
It's a neat trick to use on your reverb that's not going to add a lot of volume to your mix. Even as I crank up the volume here on the reverb return, it's not adding a ton of volume to our instruments. It's adding width, and it's adding front to rear depth on our instruments, which is what we want to get from our reverb in the first place. So no mud, no cloudiness, just some width and some extra energy and depth there on a reverb. Let's go through one more time here. I'm going to play the whole mix, and once again, I'll mute out all the reverbs that are going on this track, and we'll review our tips here to finish up. So our vocal reverb, our hall reverb here, I've got the flat plate going on our instruments, and then our drum reverbs here for our spot mics. All together, and I'll mute them and unmute them. You can hear the difference it makes inside our track.
With With no more troublesome fights and no more walking on ice, I'm free to let this go. I'm alright, I'll find the one for me, and she'll be what I need, and prove just what I know. This is what I write. With no more troublesome fights and no more walking on ice.
3 tips to master reverb in your mixes. Tip number 1 is to make use of high and low pass filters. So rolling off anything in your reverb that you don't need, whether it's excess bottom end, any muddy low mids, or any harshness on the top end from cymbals, sibilance range, anything like that. Use your high pass filters, use your low pass filters to clean up your reverb and clean up your source sound overall. Tip number 2 is using pre-delay, especially on vocal reverbs, to give your reverb some separation from the source sound, in this case, our vocal. So our vocal and our reverb aren't sitting right on top of each other. Our vocal happens, and then our reverb happens, giving us some separation and some added length and depth to our vocal without adding any mud or any cloudiness to our vocal. And tip number 3 on instruments in your mix, you could do it on drums, we're doing it on guitars and keys here, is to use reverbs that are specific to each side. So instead of putting a normal reverb on, utilize a reverb on your left channel and your right channel so there's nothing in the center there, and then try flipping the panning on them to get more width and more depth out of your mix overall. I hope that was helpful for you if you are looking to go a little bit deeper into the mixing process in its entirety and you really want to start to hone your workflow as an audio engineer. Then I have just the tool for you, and it is completely free. It is my 7-step mixing checklist, and it's just a simple PDF guide that will walk you through the entire mixing process step by step to help you get professional and radio-ready mixes without any more of the guesswork. Completely free for you to download, and you can get access to that by clicking the link below in the video description. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.